Hi, everyone. I'm David Aragona. He's Mike Beer, and another Saratoga meet is upon us. And Mike and I have been talking about some tips for playing Saratoga from different angles. We talked about two-year-old workouts in another video. We talked about how the courses are playing on dirt and turf. We discussed jockey and trainer trends. This is going to be our final video in the series that we're putting out on the DRF YouTube channel. And we want to focus on especially the wagering pools, how to bet Saratoga specifically, other factors that go into handicapping don't exactly cover how to bet the race. So Mike and I are going to talk about that a little bit more. But with the Saratoga meet starting, we do want to make you aware that we've got these packages available for Saratoga. You want to pick up your all access PPs. All 40 days of the Saratoga meet are available in these packages. You can get one that's just the past performances. You can save money on that, but you can also save the big bucks by pairing those past performances with the clock reports and the betting strategies. You can save up to 72% of the value on all those things together in that VIP package at shop.drf.com. Well, Mike, when it comes to Saratoga, we're presented with a race card after race card of really interesting races. They're difficult to handicap. It's difficult to make decisions about how to wager them. And if you're not kind of watching yourself, you could blow your entire bankroll in the first couple of weeks if you don't have good opinions on these races. And one of the toughest things with Saratoga is just money management and picking your spots. And I think that's one of the topics that sometimes goes overlooked when it comes to betting the spot.
It's always probably been the most important thing. I think it's even more important in this day and age, David, because I think as anybody who's been around for a while now knows, this game has only gotten way harder. And I would just say it probably in the last 10 years or so, it's been a real steep dive there, how much harder it's gotten. It just feels like there are too many people left around now who know what they're doing. And it's really hard to find an edge. You got to be real careful.
Yeah, those that are left playing this game as the so-called retail players, I mean, they're getting smarter because they need to. I mean, adapt or die. If you don't try to make your play more sophisticated, then you're not going to be able to compete. And some of the less sophisticated money that was in the pools, 2 decades, 3 decades ago, it feels like it's going away. And as a player, you're competing against some high-powered teams. What do you call them? CRW, CAWs. I mean, they're a big portion of the pools these days, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how it works specifically at NYRA, because it's a little different at Saratoga than it might be at some other tracks. But it does make the learning curve especially steep when it comes to playing these races. And you really have to be confident of what you do well, Mike. And going into a meet like Saratoga, there's so much temptation to play every race or to force yourself into having opinions because the races look really interesting, or try to play a lot of multi-race wagers. And you can get your head underwater pretty quick if you're playing above your means. So it's really important to kind of go into every card, know what your opinions are, and pick the types of wagers and pools you want to get involved in that work for those opinions.
Yeah, you're right about that. You want to know what you do well. You also, it's really important to know what prices you want and what prices are good. To me, that's the most important thing, because it's really hard to get value now on horses that you like. I mean, horses that, would have been, it feels like anyway, in a lot of cases, horses that would have been 8 or 10 to 1 not that long ago are 4 to 1 now. And it's really hard to make that decision when you really like a horse, but you know that he's not the right kind of price. It's really hard to hold yourself back from betting. But you got to be able to do it, David. You can't bet horses where the return's not going to be there, because it's going to cost you at the end.
Yeah, and you're talking about value, and obviously the corollary to that is the win pool. So let's talk about that a little bit at NYRA, because the way the win pool works at NYRA is a little different from some other tracks, because we talked about the presence of that CAW play in the pool, those computer assisted or computer robotic wagering, large teams that have sophisticated algorithms that are just placing bets really at the last second based on the best information available. And they're going to be basically breaking even with a large portion of the pool. And that just basically increases the effective takeout on everybody else. Players like you and me, they're just using our past performances to make decisions and place bets. So it's a real handicap for us. So you really want to pick your spots where you feel like you have an edge to play. And the easiest place to know that that's the case is in the win pool. And NYRA has done something that's a little different from some other tracks to try to make it a little more friendly for the retail players to have a chance in the win pool, they've cut off the CAW players from making those last second wagers. I believe they can't play with closer than 2 minutes to post, so that kind of takes away a lot of the edge, and really they stopped playing in the win pool very much at all, because if they can't bet at the last second, it's taking away that advantage. Now, they're very present in other pools, exactas, trifectas, daily doubles, pick threes. We can talk about that a little bit as well. But Mike, something that you see at NYRA that's different from every other track is when you get to 1 or 2 minutes to post and you see a horse is 5-1, you can bet with some confidence that horse is probably going to be somewhere between 4 and 6-1, and they're not going to drop to 8-5 when the gates open, like you see at a lot of other places.
That's true enough, and it's a really, really good place to start, if nothing else. But I do think the larger point there is probably, these guys aren't allowed, the CAWs aren't allowed, and I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on what these guys do, because I'm not. But they're still not allowed to bet, at the last flash. But make no mistake, their money is in the pools, in the win pools at Saratoga, and they are affecting the odds, and they are cutting horses' prices down that, again, used to be, maybe going off at a little more value. They're not anymore. These guys are in the pools, and they're affecting everything.
Yeah, they are. The last second wagering, though, it allows you to make at least some better decisions. I think a horse player advocate, Marshall Graham, recently posted on Twitter, I think maybe a couple of years ago now, I'm saying recently, some statistics about the last batch wagering. And it's so stark how the odds change at NYRA versus other tracks. The percentage change is minuscule at Aqueduct, Belmont, and Saratoga compared to every other track. But again, that's just in the win pool. And you will see horse players get confused sometimes when they see the win play show payouts on a horse and then compare it to the exacta and trifecta payouts, because the CAW players are a way bigger percentage of the pool in exacta and trifectas, and sometimes their sophisticated algorithms are pointing them towards horses that they're going to capitalize on in those pools, maybe not the win pool. So you might get 5-1 on a horse in the win pool that's actually true odds of 3-1 or 5-2 in the exacta pool, and maybe the exacta bet is paying half what you thought it would. But you have to be prepared for that stuff and not be surprised by it, and know that you should expect that's going to happen at NYRA, because that's the way that the system's been set up.
It's true. It's just another one of those things, David, that this game's hard enough as it is. It's just another thing that's changed over the last several years that just makes it that much harder. You got to be real careful. There's no real good answer on how you can combat it. You got to pay really close attention. You got to be smart.
Yeah, like we said earlier, it's not an ideal framework to work within, but you don't want to be ignorant to it. Sometimes in this game, there's the temptation to just get angry about everything and just, they're all working against me, it's rigged, and I'm just going to keep doing the same thing I've been doing and be upset by it. Well, yeah, that's one way to go about it. You're going to lose more money that way, or you can be aware, watch how the board is moving, expect that it's going to happen, and adapt your play to capitalize on it. And, it's not saying that you like the way that things are. It's just working within the framework that's been given to you. And like one more topic I want to touch upon when we're talking about, betting these races is the multi-race wagers, because, there's a lot of content created about trying pick fives at Saratoga. We create content around pick fives. They're some of the hardest wagers to hit, and especially at Saratoga, it seems like they draw the hardest races into those last 5 of the sequence. And it's so difficult to be right about 5 races in a row at any racetrack, but especially at Saratoga, where there's so much information you have to stay on top of. There's a lot of temptation to devote a large portion of your bankroll towards those multi-race wagers, but you have to be honest with yourself about whether or not they work for you and whether or not you really win them.
Yeah, it's true. I used to spend a lot of time looking at those sequences and a lot of money betting into them, and I just don't anymore. Just realized, a few years ago that I wasn't cashing enough tickets to keep playing them. And I've never been a big advocate for playing huge pick 5 tickets anyway. You see people put in $200, $300, $400 tickets. I would never do that. I just feel like I still haven't had quite the success in them the last 3 or 4 years. And so I've really scaled back my play on those. I feel like one of the things that I do that I think is really important to talk about, though, with the pick 5s, David, and you and I will do a video or two probably throughout the meet here for the big Saturdays, and we'll put up a ticket maker ticket that we use. And I want to point out, there's a lot of talk about these tickets and about how you want to structure your bets, and you don't want to get knocked out by short prices that can win. I just want to say, as far as ticket maker goes, I think it's really important. I don't think it ever gets discussed when we do those videos because we don't have time. Ticket maker was created by Steve Christ to play the $2 pick six. It's a totally different bet. I know a lot of people don't even remember what it is. It might have been even before your time, David. It's a totally different bet. A $2 pick six. People could not afford to play big tickets. And Steve was so smart, so far ahead of everybody by structuring his bets that way. Multiple tickets, backups, A, Bs, and Cs, all that stuff. Because a $2 pick six could be a life-changing score. And you don't want to get knocked out by a favorite, even if you don't particularly like that horse. That's not the case anymore. The game has changed. Multi-race wagers have changed. It's a 50-cent minimum. Everybody can cover all these combinations. You do not need to add extra money onto your tickets using favorites that you don't like. You're supposed to be hunting them, trying to beat them, and that's the only real way that you can make money playing those bets.
Mike, I love that you're framed it that way, because I've had a lot of conversations about playing these wagers, and I feel like that's something that really hasn't been brought up to me before about, the ABC method and what it was created for. And I mean, I feel like I like to use it maybe a little differently than some other players, where you want to make your A horses the horses that you think are the best value, not necessarily the most likely winners. But yeah, you still do run into that same problem of having some opinions on value horses. And then once you get those horses home, you don't want to be knocked out by maybe horses that you don't like, or horses that are favorites that you're against. So it kind of brings up the question of whether or not you want to make your play really bloated to cover those horses, or maybe you're not supposed to be playing the pick five if you're so worried about those things. And there are other pools that you can play into. And yeah, the takeouts are different, and they structure it so that the tracks try to make you play the pick five by saying it's lower takeout. But if your opinions and your personal performance are saying that you're better off playing a pick three, and your performance is better in a pick three, you're supposed to play the pick three. So you really do have to kind of keep track of your own records, see what you do well, and tailor your play towards that. And that's such an important thing to keep in mind at Saratoga, because you have a wealth of options in the wagering menu that you can play, and so many interesting races. You can play whole different combinations of races throughout a card or multiple cards. So you really do want to pick your spots and prioritize the wagers that work best for you. Well, I hope this discussion of how to play Saratoga has been helpful. Like I said, we did 4 different videos, 2-year-old workouts. We did a video on track biases, the dirt and turf courses, jockey and trainer trends, and this one on the wagering. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel so you get all of these updates. Mike and I will be doing a lot of handicapping of Saratoga over the next 8 weeks or so. So definitely subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube to catch all of that. Everyone, thanks for watching, and good luck playing Saratoga this meet.